Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei hated Rias from the start part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Though support and follow the Mr. Literature Connoisseur for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. The Akeno, is everything ready? Of course, you do not need to worry, President. Rias Gremory and Akeno Himejima were talking with each another. They were currently in their club room, just the two of them. Both Kaneko Taoju and Kibayudo were nowhere to be seen. The Rook of Rias Gremory was doing errand for her master, while the Knight of Rias Gremory had gone to his early contract summon. The day was the weekend, the day where Issei Haidu went out for his date with his fallen angel girlfriend. At the same time, today was the day when Rias would get another member in her peerage, or it was how it should be. Rias, are you sure about this? Staring at her queen from the corner of her eyes, Rias showed resolute mask, which hid her nervousness and unease. I do not have any other choice left. This is the only way I can think of. I know by orating his death in their hand, he will give you his loyalty and trust after you reincarnated him. However, how if he finds out about the truth that you are abandoning him to die? Why don't you choose another way with less risk than this? There is the other way to recruit him, of course. But he won't give his trust and loyalty to me immediately. To build up trust between us, as the master and the servant, we need time. And time is what we are lacking for. Rias paused for a moment. Her mask slipped and unease could be seen in her aquamarine eyes. Then, she continued with a subdued tone. If he finds out about this, it is going to be a problem in the future. I can only hope that my care and affection for him can lessen the impact somehow. I do not need worry about it. After all, my family is known for their affection to their servant. He is going to accept it even though the truth comes out. I am sure of it. Akeno sent a doubtful look to Rias. She was not sure as her king. As Rias' queen and her best friend, Akeno knew how affectionate the House of Gremory toward their family member. They thought the servant of House of Gremory as their own family. After years she had been staying at Rias' side, she knew the heiress of House of Gremory really cared of her entire peerage. Rias did not care even if all of her peerage had their own problem and emotional baggage, she would care for them all unconditionally. However, at that split second, Akeno could not help but feel a nagging feeling deep in her mind. Her intuition told her something far from Rias' hope would happen. After a small moment of pondering, Akeno decided it was only her nervousness. She decided to ignore her intuition. If you are so sure, then I, as your queen, will support you till the end. Thank you, Akeno. Rias gave her queen and best friend a thankful smile. She really needed support at this crucial moment. Suddenly, Rias' eyes dilated, as if she was in a trance. Seconds later, she snapped out of her dazed state and an excited smile bloomed on her face. He has accepted the pamphlet my familiar handed over. Rias said that with a smile. Her smile spoke her confidence that told her plan would go well. So it is finally started. Yes. What we need to do for now is waiting until that fallen angel kills him and he summons us. Slouching on the comfortable chair, a sigh escaped Rias' lips. Standing next to her, Akeno's amethyst-colored eyes gazed at Rias with complex feelings. At that time, Akeno hoped everything would go well, just like how her king hoped for. Page break. I walked to the central park where Rainer was waiting for me. The time was 10:34 a.m. I had been late more than half an hour from our appointment time. However, I did not care. In the canon, Issei had come earlier. The canon Issei really had a high hope for this date. After all, his date with Rainer was his first ever date. He did not know that the fallen angel was playing around and she planned to kill him. However, I was different. I knew what Rainer actually planned and I did not have high regard about this date. In fact, I found this charade was irritating. I wonder what Gremory will do if she finds out everything won't go as she wishes. I mused amusedly. My eyes stared onto my right hand, which was holding something. In my hand was a leaflet with red magic circle drawn on it. Around the magic circle, there was a slogan that said, "Make your wish comes true." The font was grandiose. It was quite eye-catching for a plain summoning leaflet. I had accepted this summoning leaflet from Rias Gremory's familiar. As I thought the heiress of House of Gremory, my lips curled into a mocking smile. What a silly girl. She always acts as if she is smart, while the truth she is mediocre at best. Sona Citri is more superior from her in intelligence department. Well, let's see what she is going to do after she found out everything does not like what she wants it to be. I pocketed the leaflet and continued on to Rainer's position with leisure step. After a while, I could see Rainer, in her Yuma Amano disguise, waiting in front of the clock monument. From afar, I could feel her fury, bloodlust and killing intent, which I was sure they were directed to me. Just like in the anime, Rainer was wearing a pink blouse that showed her generous S, black miniskirts and a pair of high heels. She was holding a handbag in her hands. Looking at her direction from afar, I caught some stray leers at her direction. It was not an exaggeration if somebody said Rainer was seductive and why. If only her attitude was not rotten, she would be perfect. Meanwhile, I was wearing simple red shirt underneath black leather jacket, a black jeans and a pair of black sneakers with red ornaments. In fact, this outfit was my casual outfit. I had many collections of red t-shirts, black leather jackets and black jeans. Call it my obsession for red and black, I would not care. I took a turn from the direct path and decided to give Rainer surprise. I walked calmly while I erased my presence, and then I slipped on her back without her knowing. It was as easy as a pie. Then, I slipped my hands around her waist and pulled her to me. I enjoyed her plump and soft ox mashing on my crotch. It was very comfortable and turned me on. "Hello darling, have you waited for long?" I whispered on her left ear. My voice was low and deep with trace of huskiness. Ice kun Rainer let out a startled voice after she ceased her struggle. She turned her head to look onto her back, but it made me her unintentionally. She faced forward and my lips separated from her smooth pearly daughter. Fury and bloodlust skyrocketed at instant. "Where have you been? I have waited for you more than 30 minutes. Do you know it is rude to let a lady waiting?" I held back my snort after I heard Rainer's words. "You, a lady? Stop joking around." I did not feel any presence of lady here. What I saw was a silly crow with superiority and inferiority complex in a single package. Instead of answering her question, I decided to ignore her. My left hand slipped off of her waist and entered my pocket while my right hand was still around her slim waist. Then, I stood next to her and dragged her closer to my side. "Let's start our date, shall we? The faster this is end, the better it is going to be." "Wait. Answer my question first." I ignored Rainer and then dragged her body with me. Because my sudden action, she clutched my jacket to maintain her balance. With our position, we looked like a pair of stupid couple who showed off our intimacy in public place. I did not know what Rainer was thinking, but I bet she was cursing my existence up to 9 generations before me. She was a proud woman and we looked like a shameless teenager right now. This was basically a severe blow for her pride. Around us, everybody else had their attention focused onto us, some looks filled with amazement, some were envy. There was also a distasteful look focused on us. I ignored them all as I felt their thoughts were insignificant. My arrogance and pride as dragon would not let me to feel bothered by the thoughts of mere humans. It was another distinct change since I had become full-fledged dragon. I looked down upon my former race, and my arrogance knows no bound. At least, I was not stupid enough to be blinded by my arrogance. I walked without care while Rainer in my embrace looked very awkward. She wanted to get away from me, but my hand on her waist made it impossible for her, except if she exerted inhuman strength to break our intimate position. At least, she had her priorities straight and could endure it for now. It would not be fun if she exploded before the date could even begin. For this date, I had prepared our destination. It was the new theme park in the city. This theme park had become main attraction for everyone in the Kuo city, and young couple always used this place for their date. Besides that, there was other reason why I chose this theme park. Some of the rides and attractions were for a young couple. It meant there would be a moment where young hormonal couple could sneak a naughty act on their ride. Though I and Rainer was not a true couple, this place could help me in my plan. I had planned to annoy Rainer throughout our date and made her miserable. It was part of my payback for her insolence. There was no good end for somebody who had threatened a dragon. And Rainer had foolishly planned for my death. I would retaliate as I wish. I would break her and make her submitting to me. "Ice-kun, what are we going to ride first?" Rainer asked with fake enthusiasm. "We just entered the theme park. Of course, the ticket came from my money. Although this date was only charade, my pride would not allow women to pay for me. Besides, I was a son in a rich family now, and my Issei's parents had given me too much money." My gaze swept around, watching the crowded place. I found countless human in this place, enjoying their day off with their loved one. Old and young, man and woman, parent and child, all of them enjoyed the attraction with their heart content. Maybe, I could bring my girls here next time and enjoy the fun this place could offer. I had not asked them out for date in past month because I was busy with my preparation. I had become very busy since the new semester started, planning for my preparation before I officially made contact with Devil Faction. When I found out I was the only one who was in here not for fun, it was funny and tragic. Nevertheless, I could not complain because I had brought this upon myself. "And what do you think?" I asked back rhetorically. Rainer tilted her head slightly. Then, she watched around until her eyes stopped. My eyes followed her sight, and I saw a big map of this theme park. "Let's check what they can offer for us." I shrugged carelessly and followed Rainer, who had slipped out before I could force her into my embrace. After we arrived, we stood in the front of the map and stared at it intently. Our eyes swept over the Mive map that showed the position of every ride and attraction. I felt Rainer's bloodlust lessen slightly as her mind focused onto the map. Finding this, I wanted to shake my head, disappointed. Rainer had dropped her guard just as her attention was taken away by the big map. No wonder she was no more than lowly grunt. She was weak and easily distracted like this. I focused to the map while I kept my guard up. I could not lower my guard while there was a fallen angel gunning for my life. After a while, I found a ride that would help me annoying Rainer. It would be a good start for this worst possible date for her. I have decided what we are going to ride. I announced and then grabbed Rainer's hand, surprising her. Then, I dragged her to our first ride. It was an attraction called Love Cavern. I could not help but wonder how much Rainer could endure before she reached her S. This was going to be interesting. Love Cavern. The name of this ride was misleading enough. This ride was nothing more than riding a boat on 50-meter-long artificial river. The reason why this ride named as such, it was because our boat would enter a cave of 30 meter long. This cave had a romantic feeling in it. The interior was just like a normal cave, but there were many colorful crystals like lamps embedded on the cave wall, giving romantic and mysterious feeling. Right now, I was sitting on the elegant boat while Rainer was sitting on my lap. I had forced her to sit here. Just like I had thought, Rainer's bloodlust skyrocketed as I forced her to do such shameful thing. Not like I gave a damn about it. When our boat entered the cave, I immediately slipped my hands into Rainer's blouse and br. My palm made a contact with her soft, smooth S and stiff S. Then, I began kneading her S roughly. What? Ice cun. What are you Ian? Stop this. Stop this already. Ian. I ignored Rainer's command and continued with my harmant. When I slipped my left hand into her underwear, Rainer's struggle intensified. Her movement rocked the boat, threatening to drop us into the cold water. Although the boat was shaking, I easily kept my balance. Stop. Ian. I said stop bastard. Rainer cursed me loudly as her body continued struggling. It would be lying if I said I did not feel offended by her curse. I used a bit above normal human strength to keep her in my embrace. My thumb was pinning and twisting her sensitive nub, while my middle finger played with her vaginal entrance. Her bloodlust was truly something to behold. It was the highest intensity I could feel from her so far. Unfortunately, it was still not enough to intimidate me. Release me. I said release me. As if her patience reached it, Rainer forced herself out of my laps. Because my strength, she broke off easily. However, because her intense struggle, the boat shook too much and she could not keep her balance. Just as she escaped from me, her feet slipped and she dropped into the cold water with a loud splash. Because the intense shaking, I had used my right hand to grab the edge of the boat, keeping me from free-falling like the currently soaked fallen angel. I watched Rainer with amused expression, not hiding its slightest. She glared dagger at me. I don't know you want to play with water so much, darling. If I know about it sooner, I will bring you to the water park instead. Rainer's killing intent reached the daughter body with shaking from rage and shame. She was all over and her clothes were see-through. From my position, I could see her white skin and black br underneath her light-colored blouse. Because her falling position on her S, she had unintentionally flashed her underwear for me. The sight of her underwear and the overflowing shame was truly a sight worthy to remember. I held back my chuckle at that moment. Rainer stood up without a word. Because the artificial river was shallow, the surface was only as tall as her knees. She moved briskly towards the other side of cavern. Her upper face was hidden by her bangs, and killing intent leaked out from her body like a water rushed out of broken dam. I took off my sneakers and folded my jeans before I jumped into the river. I decided to follow her before she could disappear. A stupid expression belonged to the staff was funny. The staff sent a questioning look at my direction, which I replied with non-committal shrug. Thankfully, the staff minded his own business instead of ing his nose where it did not belong. Bowing her head while her red face could be seen between the gaps of her bangs, the see-through clothes that showed her wide and gorgeous skin and sensual black br, her shaking body, which made her F-cup S vibrating temptingly, her brisk pace that pronounced her plump and supple ox, the current Rainer was easily mistaken as an embered girl. But, I knew better than that. Rainer was leaking absurd amount of bloodlust and killing intent that could make weak-hearted, normal human died by cardiac arrest. When I saw she went to the theme park's entrance, I grabbed her hand immediately. I could not let her just went out like that. Even though her patience was at our date just started a short time ago. It would be bad for me if the source of my amusement just gave up like that. What? Rainer snapped at me. Her expression was furious and ugly. Her amethyst-colored eyes were filled with rage and shame, turning into very sharp dagger that wished to stab me to death. Fortunately, a look could not kill person. If a mere look could kill person, I would be dead hundreds times over in past few seconds. I put a cool mask and ignored everyone's attention that focused onto us. Are you going like that? Won't it be more embering with your current state? I pointed out with amused tone. I did not hide my amusement from her state at all. The voice of grinding teeth entered my ears, and it came from Rainer. She knew I was amused and did not hide it deliberately. And what's your idea, smart? Rainer asked with spiteful tone and hateful expression. There's a shop that sells clothes. Maybe, you can buy a new set of clothes and change you one. I replied easily as if I just talked about weather. After I said that, Rainer's body twitched. She repressed her urge to tear my face from my head in the most brutal way. Her pissed expression made me happy deep in my vicious heart. Where? The curt word came out from Rainer's gritted teeth. It sounded sharp like blade and was filled with intent to kill me. I felt irritation when I heard that tone of her. I had always been annoyed by her, but so far I found she was quite amusing, and my irritation was hidden behind my amusement. However, she was testing my patience too. Well, you can follow me if you want to go there, but it seems you are in a hurry to leave this place, darling. I spoke with mocking tone. I did not disguise it and brutally showed to her how much I toying with her. Rainer's pupils contracted and shook. Her trembling intensified. Likely, she understood I did not have an ounce of sorry about her condition. Yes, me, your handsome and suave boyfriend. I said back with light and ill-mannered tone. Do you want to change your clothes or not? Bring me to the shop. Now. An overbearing demand from weak and puny cannon fodder, such tone was very insolent and stabbed directly to my sore spot. My eyebrow twitched. I felt anger bubbled in my heart because her tone. My pride as a dragon would not let me to step so low like following her demand. However, my logic soothed my rage. Although I was pissed by her, I held back my anger. Rainer was my current prey and plaything. If I raged because her angry demand, it would be merciful for her if I killed her right now. It was no good. I had decided she would suffer a shame and pain because she had foolishly planned to kill me. After an unnoticeable sigh, I stared at her coldly and said simple words, follow me. Then, I went to the small shop in this theme park with Rainer tailing behind me. Her scornful eyes pricked me from my back. We just started this date and she was already at the end of her dot. What an impatience woman. She already made me lose my mood for this. Page break. I and Rainer, were currently in a cafe. It was the stereotypical cafe with young couple as their business target. The atmosphere was quite mild and the setting was good enough. However, there was awkwardness that spread around our vicinity because our bleak mood. It was suffice to say we were standing out in the cafe and our presence affected the atmosphere of the cafe. Rainer's attire had changed. Currently, she was clad in long-sleeved powder blue shirt with cute frills, crimson skirts, and a pair of dark-colored stockings. Everything came from my money. I have brought those in the theme park shop and I did not feel happy with it. But alas, I must stay calm and cool, my retribution would come soon enough. At that moment, it was around 2 in the afternoon. We had left the theme park sooner than I had planned. We left just after the sun tilted to west slightly. Currently, we were taking a break to calm our temper. It was Rainer's idea. Although her patience had reached its boiling point and her pride was battered, she kept her facade up until now. It seems she deluded herself that all the shame she had gained in this charade would be paid back in the conclusion of this date. I, on the other side, had lost my interest for this stupid charade. Oh, I was still in the mood to torment her, but the red heat within my heart because her insolence had been demanding a shameful retribution, more than what I had forced Rainer to bear. I wished this charade would end soon and we would get into the business immediately. In my eyes, Rainer and her riffraff group was only a small problem. It was so small and puny that was basically insignificant. Besides this foul-tasted charade, I had many more important matters, just like creating alliance between me and other supernatural pantheon outside of biblical faction to cement my foundation in this harsh, unforgiving world. The reason why I went on with this pathetic charade was because my pride was a destructive thing. Sometimes, it was magnificently useless for somebody with cold logic. However, living without a pride was like living without a soul. Such sinful thing had always been in dormant state inside all living creatures' heart, waiting for catalyst to wake up and take over the calm, collected logic. In the past, as Edward Smith, I did have pride, but it was not as big as my current pride as Issei, the Red Dragon Emperor. I had always felt proud for my survival ability as an orphan in the harsh real world. I had prided myself for my tenacity and willpower for living alone without support from adults. I had felt proud for every success I had gained with my own sweat, tears and blood. I and Rainer, had been in here for more than an hour. In fact, it was almost 2 hours for us sitting silently and minding each other business. What we had done before we came here had been forgotten all along. It was just fleeting experience like the easily forgotten autumn breeze. It was truly sad. The supposedly wonderful date had become like this. What which accompanying us were an awkward tension and dry silence. Who was to blame for all of this? I blamed Rainer's impatience. Because of it, my mood was dark and gloomy. The bitch had a gal to act high and might in front of me. It was enough to hold back knowing she was aiming for my life. My pride and ego would not let it slide just like that. Wherever there was an effect, there should be a cause creating it. Rainer had a gal disturbing a sleeping dragon, a dangerous and deadly one at that. There should be retribution for her insolence. I had planned to make her miserable in our date, but not everything would go just as we wish. The incident in the love cavern had fried Rainer's last patience, and her mask instantly slipped at that moment. What a shame. Just as I hoped she would hold back a little longer, but she had caved in from it alone. Although I blamed Rainer, I was aware how Rainer also blaming me for everything. She was proud and selfish woman. She would not accept anything that went against her wish. Prideful one with my ego everywhere was same. No one would accept as the wrong side. One only accepts in the winning and rightful side. However, not everybody could be as such easily. One needs power to back up such my ego. Unfortunately for Rainer, she was the weakest one between us. Our power difference was just like a dragon that soars in the heaven and a worm that crawls in the mud. However, Rainer was blind from the truth. She was still in delusion that she was the superior one because she thought I was no more than a mere human. Oh no, Issei-kun. My attention focused to Rainer half-heartedly. She had calmed down considerably and continued her charade as my girlfriend. Alas, I had lost interest. Although I lost interest, my pride still demanded retribution. In the end, I could not help but humor her. What is it? I apologize for snapping before. My eyebrows rose in interest. Amusement danced in my eyes after I heard her confession. It was surprising she had taken initiative to apologize. Although her eyes still filled with scorn and hatred to me, she had taken initiative to break the wall between us. Oh? You apologized for what happened, huh? Should I forgive you or not? I asked, light-mannered. Rainer's body flinched because the repressed rage. In her eyes, I acted insolent and trampled her pride. Issei-kun, forgive me please. I was angry because the incident. I do not want our date to end with tension like this. Moreover, this is our first date, right? We supposedly make a good memory of it. You must have high regard about our first date, right? Putting a cute pleading mask, Rainer said that. Her words made me want to snort in disbelief. Holding this date in high regard. Do not joke around, woman. Who in their right mind would hold a date with somebody who planned to kill him in high regard? Only an utter moron who did that. Wait, Canon Issei was holding this date with high regard though, so he was an utter moron. So, you want me to forgive you, huh? After what happened before, do you think it is easy for me to forgive you and let it slide just like that? I taunted Rainer with haughty look. Her face contorted into ugly expression for split second before her nervous bashful mask slipped on again. Although it was only in split second, I easily caught it. Then what do you want? What I want then? I put a thoughtful mask and tapped my chin. Then, I leered at her F-cup-s, which was a tempting sight. Her eyelids twitched as she caught my lewd look, her body shaking in rage and shame. Surprisingly, she swallowed it and pushed her slightly, pronouncing her my vets temptingly. She was surprisingly adaptable with this sudden shift in mood. Are you thinking something naughty, Issei-kun? Rainer sent a seductive smirk and smoldering look. Every syllables of my name she had spoken escaped her lips with alluring voice. If so, then what are you going to do? How about we find an empty and silent place just for us, alone? Her whispers sounded like devil temptation, even though she was a fallen angel. I stared at Rainer with indifferent mask. Her seduction was not enough to excite me. Heck, the usual Aika was more seductive than her. Shrugging my shoulder in faux helplessness, I spoke to her. Then, what are we waiting for? I know empty and silent place for us. With that, we left the cafe, leaving a relieved staff because our awkwardness from before was bad for their business. Right now, I and Rainer were walking side to side in an alley. Rainer had slipped from my embrace every time I tried to slip my arm around her slim waist. Currently, Rainer was watching around with sharp eyes like a hawk. The alley was not totally empty, some couples were walking in and out of the alley. In every big, industrial city like Kuo City, a place like this was always existed. This place was known as Kuo City's red light district, the place where the nightlife was going on. Although the time was not late enough and the sky was still bright and clear, this place was already bustling with activity. Issei-kun, where are you bringing me to? A question with wariness beneath a bashful, nervous facade came from Rainer. I stared at her from the corner of my eyes. Contempt could be seen in it. However, Rainer was not focused to me because she had been checking the place where she would commit her atrocity. Well, you want to apologize to me and show me how sincere you are, right? You also asked for empty and silent place for two of us. There is a place I find suitable for it. Actually, I just heard about this place in Ping. I yet to go there myself, and what it is, you will find out soon enough. Our conversation stopped. We continued our walk leisurely until we were deep in the alley. The deeper we went, we saw many active bars and questionable places for underage peoples in this shabby alley. A moment later, we stopped in front of a building with colorful lighting. Rainer stared at the building wide-eyed, bewildered. It was a love hotel. Is this? Yep, this is. Rainer discreetly sent a scornful look at me, which I caught and ignored. I stepped inside, but Rainer did not follow immediately. She seemed torn between going in or not. I turned back to face her and raised my eyebrow inquisitively. There was a hint of mockery and arrogance in my face as I faced Rainer. I caught Rainer's S twitched, she gritting her teeth behind her blank mask. What are you waiting for? I can't wait to see how sincere you are in apologizing, darling. I spoke with obscene face directed to her, my eyes shamelessly leering on her busts. It seems I found a hobby in taunting her silly. Oh, don't worry, honey. I'll show you how sincere I am. Replying to me, Rainer put on a sickeningly sweet smile, so sweet that it felt rotten and fake. We entered the building together. Rainer still kept her distance from me by a hairbreadth. Surprisingly, it was Rainer who booked the room for the two of us. She selected a room on the uppermost floor. She had thought over everything meticulously. She truly prepared to kill me anytime soon. I watched in amusement as the hotel staff trying to flirt with Rainer. The staff was shabby-looking, old man. His face was ugly with rows of yellow teeth, showing his lack of care of his hygiene. His obscene look locked on Rainer's mild, seductive as he flirted with her. From Rainer's bloodlust, I found she was irritated by the perverted ugly staff. Poor bastard. If a miracle happens and Rainer gets off from my claw, this bastard will be killed by Rainer for sure. After the check-in finished and Rainer got the key of our room, she pulled me to the third floor impatiently. This shabby love hotel did not have a lift for customer convenience. We must go to the highest floor manually via staircases. Because of this, both of I and Rainer had an agreement about the bad service of this hotel. Having an agreement with Rainer was something I did not feel happy about. I believed the feeling was mutual between us. When we arrived in front of our room, Rainer immediately unlocked the door and entered the room first. All of her gates were screaming impatience. She really could not wait to pay back the humiliation I had put on her. She was very giddy and could not wait to kill me. I entered the room after Rainer leisurely. When I was in the room, I checked the room and felt disappointment by the bad service this hotel could offer its customer. The room was only standard room of 6 tatami wide with simple western bed and a light bulb on the ceiling. The bed sheet was dark brown without a sense of romance at all. Likely the hotel staffs deliberately said it because they were lazy to clean it regularly. The wallpaper on the wall was worn out and the tiles on the floor were dirty. The musky smell of was thick in the air. This was real downer and unsatisfying. With this kind of service, they dared to set a pricey cost for single night. Why in the hell the owner did not close this pathetic hotel already? Suddenly, my magical sense caught a barrier had been set up. Goo-hoo-hoo, an ominous chuckle took my attention. The atmosphere in this room changed suddenly. I turned my sight to Rainer and saw her shoulders shook as the chuckle continued. Coo-hoo-hoo, coo-coo-coo-coo-hoo-hoo, ha 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 ha. The ominous chuckle became laughter filled with madness. Because Rainer's position, which her back was facing me, I could not see her face clearly. However, her whole body was shaking as if the shackles that restrained her innermost desire had been lifted up. I felt amused by it and waited for what she would do next. This was clearly more interesting than watching a Mexican standoff from a drama action movie in the TV. Suddenly, Rainer spun around until she faced me. Her formerly youthful face had matured, giving dark, seductive feeling. It was her true face actually, it was not bad. But alas, her eyes filled with madness and ill intent directed to me, it made her beauty wasted away. Then, she spread her hands wide in invitation filled with mockery. You seem happy about something, darling. If you feel happy because this trashy room and the bad service of this hotel, then sorry, you have bad taste. I spoke before she could start her villainous dialogue. Because of that, Rainer was stunned. Her face showed bewildered expression, taken aback by my sudden comment. However, her expression contorted into ugly expression almost immediately, turning her seductively beautiful face into ugly, diabolical mask. Rainer's bloodlust skyrocketed like no one business at instant. Rainer's voice shook with rage, but it calmed almost immediately. Her amethyst eyes glinted with glee and madness. Humph. Don't you know what will happen to you, vermin? She asked with calm voice filled with killing intent. My eyebrows rose, not in confusion but in amusement. Oh, of course I know what will happen to me. I know I am going to play with my newly acquired toy until it breaks and becomes useless crap. My tone was arrogant and filled with mockery. Finally, the banter and boss-like confrontation began. Let's see how well her performance in this climax of our charade. Yahahahaha. Foolish human. You are truly blind, huh? Even in the front of the death's door, you are still arrogant as ever. Yufufufu, I have held back all my anger and shame. You humiliated me and dared touching me with your filthy hand. Such insolence that knows no bound. I can't wait for killing you, watching the life slips out from your eyes, and savoring your pitiful whimpers. Do you know how painful it was for me? Holding the boiling anger and scorching shame because your impudence. You touched my sacred body as if I am no more than a toy to satisfy your old depravity. The smile slipped on my face. It was a smile filled with mockery, mocking the stupid fallen angel in front of me. No, the one who was insolent and impudent wasn't me, but you, bitch. I began my counter with light tone. Rainer was taken aback by that. Then, I continued. Did you think I did not know you were just trapping me? Did you think I was a fool that would accept a confession from pitiful little bitch like you blindly? I'm not a fool who just accept an unknown girl with shabby background suddenly confessed her love to me. I know all along you are bad news to me. Now, you have shown your ugly face, and I am glad I only have small contact with you these few days. I would be contaminated with disease if I touched you more. Such filthy mongrel was nothing but a waste of space. After I finished my spiteful, thorny words, I felt good inside. No wonder some anime characters would ridicule each other and trading banter before fighting. Besides, as a mental warfare, banter could become refreshment for mind. It was good for one's health. Furthermore, if it happened before serious fight. Rainer's eyebrow twitched dangerously. Veins bulged on her forehead, marring her beautiful face with gruesome lines. Her killing intent had reached the level where it manifested in physical plane as black miasma. She truly looked like a demon from deepest pit of hell. You a lowly human like you, how dare you? Rainer's rage-filled words came out from her gritted teeth. The gritting sound was loud enough for normal hearing sense to catch. It made me afraid her teeth would turn into dust before I had a chance to break them by my own hand. It would be a shame if that truly happens. I have held back my desire to just kill you like a pitiful worm. But, you keep aggravating me. You have tested my patience to the utmost, human. Rainer let out a furious roar. At that moment, a pair of black wings appeared and flapped dramatically on Rainer's back. The mighty flap sent a breeze towards me and scattered black feathers in the room. I stood on my spot with a surprised reaction. This was not a faux surprise or an act. I was truly surprised. You ha 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 ha, yes, that surprised face. That clueless face. A human like you won't understand about the power above you. You ha ha ha. Now, the time for you to die is finally coming, vermin. At first, I want to tell you that you should blame the god because the sacred gear in you. However, what happened in these few days has changed my mind. You do not have anybody to blame beside yourself. Your insolence in newly herring my body will face retribution. Die. Actually, Rainer had made a grave mistake in her proclamation. You see, I was not surprised because she showed her wings. What made me stunned was because Rainer had followed the scene in light novel instead of the anime scene. She did not show her flashy BDSM outfit, but stayed with the current attire I have brought for her. What a pity, at least I want to see her BDSM outfit with my own eyes. But the seductive body clad in BDSM outfit, it would be a sight worthy to remember. It seems I needed to put my priorities straight. After all, I was in the middle of climax of the Rainer arc in this crazy drama. My surprise only lasted for an instant. I regained my cognitive ability, but my shocked expression stayed on. Before Rainer could finish creating her light spear, I had released my draconian power from its restraint. When I released my power, it came out scarily calm. It was the testament to control I have over my power, the fruit of my sweats, tears and bloods for years. I immediately imagined impregnable bubble under Rainer's barrier. This impregnable power would not leak out any power, sound or vibration to outside. When my rainbow-colored barrier finished, the room had become a separated dimension, it disconnected from outside world. Besides that, my unrestrained draconian energy also made my body light, my sense heightened, and I was full of vigor and power. It was intoxicating feeling I loved so much. It felt like I could do anything with this incomprehensible power. In the corner of my eyes, I caught the sight of purple light spear appeared in Rainer's hand. Her hand moved, throwing that glowing stick towards my stomach. That happened almost at instant, but with my heightened senses I watched everything with slow motion. When the glowing stick was only few inches from creating a hole in my stomach, my right hand moved fluidly and lightly. It was as if my hand was weightless and formless like a phantom. There was not any resistance in my movement. It was as if my body had been freed from mortal restraint and I was a higher being outside of mortal comprehension, the supernatural being. As my hand caught the tip of the spar, I felt warm heat from the lethal light. My skin, in which was no different than the scale of dragon, easily rendered the dangerous light spear powerless. Then, my body exploded into action. In the span less than a time needed to blink an eye, I reappeared in front of Rainer. I watched in slow motion as Rainer's pupils contracted in confusion, surprise and disbelief. I moved my right hand, which gripped the light spear like a baseball bat. I also injected the overbearing power of dragon into the purple light spear, making it sturdier than the pathetic glowing stick Rainer had created. Then, I mercilessly, heartlessly, brutally bashed the side of Rainer's head with her own weapon. Crash. Crack. There were snapping and cracking sounds as the light weapon ed Rainer's head. The purplish red light spear, which I had enhanced with my energy, snapped into two. Meanwhile, Rainer's body rose from the ground and flipped over by the kinetic force from my attack. Once, twice, 3 times. The arrogant yet weak fallen angel somersaulted in the air 3 times before her body slammed onto my rainbow-colored barrier with loud thud. Then, her body slid down and crumpled on the floor. I ignored Raynor's twitching body and stared the snap light spear in disappointment. Honestly, this light weapon was really pathetic. Its base structure was very poor. Even though I had injected my power to enhance it, it could only contain a little amount without snapping. And then, when I used it to bash Raynor's head, it snapped like a fragile twig. A poor weapon created by a weak fallen angel. I should not have high hope for it. Well, I could still get my retribution with my own hands by the way. Aha! The painful took my attention. I turned my head to the sound origin. I saw the asymmetrical face of Raynor. The left side of her face was bulged with black and purple color. Bloods also leaked from her nose orifice and the corner of her lips. Her seductively beautiful face was no more. It made her to utter a coherent word. In those amethyst eyes, I saw confusion, bewilderment, shock and fear. I looked down at her, arrogantly, like a tyrannical ruler that saw a peasant from his high throne in the sky. Muahaha, yes, that surprised face. That clueless face. A pitiful fallen angel like you won't understand about the power above you. Muahaha. Now, the time for you taste the despair is finally coming, worm. At first, I want to tell you that you should blame your own stupidity because you dared planning to kill me. However, after I have enough of your nauseating arrogance, your insolence and acting high and mighty in front of me, you're better, will face retribution. Now let me show you the red despair of purgatory. I replayed the edited version of Raynor's words with absolutely dry tone, so dry it could make somebody feel searing heat and vicious dehydration. The corner of my lips tugged into a smile. I was sure this smile was something people called a sadistic smile. Now let the retribution begins. Raynor let out an incoherent question. Her body was twitching from pain from her position on the floor. She looked up to me with her wide, shocked eyes. She has yet to understand what truly happened in that blink of an eye. I gave her a mocking smile, looking down on her. Then, I spoke with overbearing and arrogant tone. Confused. Surprised. Like I have said, bitch. You do not know what you were dealing with. You planned for killing me without finding out the information, the true one, about your target. Such basic mistake you have committed. Raynor had yet to understand. It really annoyed me. Just by a surprise attack like that, she has lost the motor function in her pitiful brain. Sad, she was really sad thing. I decided to go to the point. Raising my left hand slightly, I activated my sacred gear, the Gauntlet of Red Dragon Emperor, which was also known as boosted gear. At that moment, my draconian energy churning beneath my skin, they wanted to let loose and be used. The activity of my wild, overbearing energy changed my appearance slightly. My canine and nails grew longer, my light brown eyes turned into emerald green with black reptilian vertical slit, and my hair turned from brown to red. My body leaked pressure, dominating the will of lesser being around the vicinity. Because the space in this room has been locked up, only Raynor felt the tyrannical pressure I have unleashed. The amethyst eyes belonged to Raynor shook as she saw the boosted gear and the change in my appearance. Shock, surprise, disbelief, apprehension, fear and terror mixed in her gem-like eyes. Everything finally dawned upon her, and she became frantic. I am Fohibble Hudhir how. Still with incoherent painful voice, Raynor denied what she saw. Her body moved away, trying to distance herself from me. Just like a weakling who found out there was a dead end in front of her, she scuttled away like a terrified mouse. Now, where are you going to go, darling? If my memory is correct, you said you will show your sincerity to me, right? Why you tried to distance yourself from me? Don't be afraid. After all, we are just started here. My voice was light. There was vicious, malevolent poison in it, corroding Raynor's battered will further. Then, I took a step forwards, closing my distance with her. The more I tried to get closer, the more Raynor frantically distanced herself from me. Raynor's body was also shaking in terror. Geth Hawe Ha me. Geth Hawe Ha me. Geth Hawe Ha me. Raynor shouted incoherently. She dragged her body across the floor, trying to create a gap between us. Unfortunately, it was futile. This place was already locked up from the outside world. Except there was at least high-tier ultimate CL being destroyed this barrier from outside, the mere cannon fodder like her could only dream to go out from this confine. The corner of my lips tugged upwards in a malicious smile. I was well aware how good I was with putting on a villainous mask. This was something I have trained in front of the mirror from long time, beside my poker mask, innocent mask, gentleman mask and many other masks that I could utilize in perfect situation. I lifted my right hand, palm facing Raynor as if I tried to grasp her. I imagined few chains came to exist, shooting towards and binding Raynor on the air. In span of millisecond, 7 magic circles as wide as my palm appeared behind me, floating in the air, then 7 thorny chains with sharp arrowhead-shaped tips shot out from them. The magic circles and the chains shone with scarlet glow, bathing the space around them with ominous glow. The chains flew towards Raynor like a ferocious snake, and then tighter legs, hands, waist and 2 wings. Raynor's body lifted on the air and she faced me. This little trick was something I created from a scratch. I got the idea from adamantine sealing technique from Rudo franchise, the chain magic of Hades aka Perk from Irie Tale franchise, and chain of heaven aka Enkidu of Gilgamesh from T-Stay Night. My Japanese and IM knowledge was the source of my exotic abilities. I felt grateful being a mild Japanophile in my previous life. However, binding the target was not the only ability this chain has. It could suppress the target power too. Unfortunately, it has and I could only seal the target's power if he or she is weaker than mine. Stronger target could brute force his or her way out of this little trick of mine. With leisure steps, I moved closer towards the struggling Rainer. The more I came closer, the more frantic she has become. I deliberately dragged my steps slowly, giving her the despair that ate her heart slowly and tortuously. Soon enough, Rainer ceased her struggle when she found out she could not get away. In the end, she stared at me with desperate, terrified, pleading eyes. Murray. Svar me. Fees, svar me. A hildo ahething. Rainer begged to me with pitiful expression. Unfortunately for her, I was ruthless person. I have steeled my heart long time ago when I found out where and who I was in my second life. I was aware being brutal and ruthless was different than being evil. In fact, such moral about right and wrong was useless in the front of absolute power. The strong ruled over the weak. To be on top of the food chain, you must be strong until the other fear or respect you. When you have become strong, you can do anything you want without something holding you back. When you are on top of the world, you will find there is no right or wrong, just or evil. The law was created by the absolute power, and if I have absolute power, I could create my own law. It is the law of this dog eats dog supernatural power. Mercy? Spare you? Why should I listen to a plea from a mongrel like you? Would you spare me or give me mercy if our position is replaced? They say you reap what you sow. Be silent and let me give the just retribution for the insolence you have committed to me. Don't worry. I won't kill you, but I will break you and make you submit to me before I re-educate you until there is nothing but fear to me in your heart. I said with cold tone. Hearing my words, Rainer's body shook in absolute terror. Her eyes dulled with despair. She was aware how screwed she was, and she could not do a damn thing about it. Rainer's despair-filled expression tickled the sadistic side in my heart. It stirred awake the tyrannical feeling buried deep in me, staying dormant for a long time. I folded my hands on my posture showing arrogance. I willed my power to create another magic equation, and bluish-white magic circles appeared behind the red magic circles I have summoned before. It was only an inch larger than the first set of magic circles. When I willed my trick to active bluish-white electricity traveled on the chains that bound Rainer, electrocuting her immediately. A painful, high-pitched scream escaped Rainer's gaping spit, and blood came out together with the heart-wrenching scream. I have said I would listen to the beautiful music, right? Right now, I was enjoying that music, the grim music from the miserable Rainer. I continued torturing Rainer for more than 2 hours with different torture. Her pitiful endurance made each torture was short. I stopped one torture when she reached her and healed her before I continued. First was electrocution, then hellish heat from my draconian aura, then being squashed by high-pressured water, then being sliced by wind blades, then being smeared with corrosive acid, then putting her in hellish nightmare that scarred her mind, and more different creative torture I could use on Rainer. Every time I finished one torture, I would heal Rainer physically. Rainer's pitiful scream and miserable shriek was something I enjoyed gleefully. Each second pet as Rainer screamed and shrieked, the vindictive feeling and black heat in my heart reduced slowly and tickling pleasure coursed in my veins. I kept torturing Rainer until that anger and grudge on her disappeared completely from my heart and the dark vicious desire grew in me. Oh my, did you become a vegetable? My soft voice asked the unresponsive Rainer. The fallen angel was still alive. She was still floating on the air, bounded by my chain magic. However, her body was slumping like a marionette that the strings have been cut off, her eyes were dull and lifeless, and drools leaked out from the corner of her lips, which were parting slightly. I cupped Rainer's chin and raised her face. I saw her vacant look, losing a cognitive ability. Her ragged breath escaped her nose and lips, showing evidence she was still alive. Raising my free hand to touch her forehead, I then scanned the state of her mind. I was quite surprised when I found her mind was still intact, albeit badly scarred. The mental trauma has buried deep, rooting in her psychology. She was also unconscious with eyes open. Humph. Now, you have graduated from the purgatory of the Red Dragon Emperor alive. What left for you is atoning your crime to me. From now on, you will become my pawn, a tool for me to use as I wish. Be grateful I spared your life, you useless bitch. I whispered coldly. Then, I released Rainer from her shackle. Rainer's body immediately dropped on the floor with a soft thud. I crouched down and closed her eyelids with my hand. After that, I sent her to the basement under my house via teleportation magic. This basement was my secret den, and not even my parents were aware of it. The place was also protected with many barriers and trapped for the courageous trespassers. When I was alone in the room, I came back to my sense. The black haze that crawled in my heart receded back to where it came. I let loose a sigh. I stared around with cold eyes and then moved towards the bed. I lied down and stared the worn-out ceiling, deep in thought. Well, aren't you merciless, Brad? Where in the world have you been, old lizard? Were you sleeping before? I did not hear your sound from this morning. I was sleeping. After I heard Drake's nonchalant answer, I became silent. My mind was filled with thoughts. The memory of me torturing Rainer with merciless cold heart kept repeating in my mind, creating a mocking cycle. I found out my hand was shaking. This was the first time I commit such cruel action and savor every drop of it. Something troubling you, partner. It was statement, not a question. Drake knew me so well until I could not hide anything from him. I let out a weary sigh and then I told Drake what was troubling me. I feel uneasy after I was aware how cruel I tortured Rainer a while ago. Though I have tried justifying my action, this feeling still bothered me. Do you think something wrong with me, partner? Drake did not answer my question immediately. He was silent for a moment. Then, he continued, you're still tied by the human moral, Edward. Though you have become a dragon and your base instinct slowly changes into that of dragon, you have lived your first life as a human. It will be, and it created a conflict in you. Dragons and humans are different creatures, so different that their way of life is against the other. Humans have the so-called moral that restrains their deepest desire from resurfacing, unlike dragons that lives their life as they pleased. Do not worry, you won't be bothered by a menial thing like that in the future. I pondered Drake's words in silence. What I have done to Rainer was truly cruel. It was something that I have never done before. It gave me a surprise by my loose moral when I tortured her until I utterly broke her like that. Though I have steeled my herd, my moral comp was deep-rooting in my psychology. What has happened before made me afraid I would lose all my reason and I would turn into a monster filled with madness. But, I feel uneasy. I am afraid I will become a mindless monster. Partner, let me tell you something. You have met one evil dragon before, but do you know what his evil dragon actually is? A mad dragon that loses their reasoning. I replied unsurely. A ridiculing snort came from Drake. If evil dragons truly lost their reasoning, how can they still think normally when they are calm? The word evil in their name is just the addition the other supernatural creatures added just as they pleased. Though the like of Grendel and Ozzy Dahaka was annoyance when they were drowned in by their bloodlust, they could still think straight. If there is an evil dragon, then shouldn't I, why Drake gosh, is an evil dragon too. When I fought against Albion in the past centuries, I drowned in my bloodlust too until I ignored everything else. That bloodlust manifested into the forbidden technique Juggernaut Drive as I was sealed in this cage by YHWH. Remember, partner, there is no fixed definition of righteous and evil. Everything is simply just belong to value of others. And as a dragon we should not give a damn about what they think. And you won't be a mindless beast. That bunch in the bar won't let you become a mindless beast after you freed them from their curse anyway. So, stop worrying for nothing. I pondered more about what Drake has told me. I have lost the sight of time, and when I felt a lot calmer, an hour has passed. I immediately remembered there was one business left for today. The other fallen angels holing in the abandoned church. I must go to there and settle this small problem as fast as possible before my first official meeting with Devil Faction. After giving this shabby room a last look, I teleported towards the area around the abandoned church and left this room empty without further ado. When I was still a brat, the only church in Kuo City was active and bustling with visitors. Unfortunately, something happened to the father and sisters in that church. They were killed quite brutally in one night. Since then, the place where people go to find enlightenment became a deserted place. All of that happened just after Irina and her parent moved to England. Staring the gloomy, abandoned church, that memory flashed in my head. My eyes locked onto the once magnificent building in this neighborhood, which has been reduced into this haunted palace. I recalled Irina's gloomy expression when her parents called her to visit this church when she was in the middle of playing with me. It was surreal, knowing how Irina would become a devoted member of church in the canon. No one would believe Irina disliked going to church when she was young. I shook my head, clearing the needless thoughts in my head. And then I stepped into the church's garden. The lush and beautiful garden in which Irina promised to me she would be my bride in the future has become a gloomy place. Because I was different than canon Issei, I hadn't mistaken Irina's gender or acted as if I did not know her true gender. Irina was my childhood girlfriend, while I was Irina's childhood boyfriend. Please remember there was a space between the word girl, boy and friend. Though, I would accept gladly if Irina became my official girlfriend. I walked towards the church double doors. The wooden doors that once looked like a beautiful gate to the wonderful palace has been reduced into this pitiful state. My nose picked dozens different smell inside the church. 3 of them were fallen angels, and the others were obviously belonged to human. It was to explain it in the word how human or fallen angel smell was, I just knew it and never bothered about it. Furthermore, the dozens humans have distinct smell beside their human smell. one smelled clothes with blood. Freed Zelzen, my mind immediately connected the dot. Should I kill him? Well, if I kill him, it was indirectly helping Gremory. And right now, I dislike them because the air is stupidity. After weighing Freed's death like thinking what kind of shoes I want to use, what left was making an entrance, a bad awesome entrance. Hey. I am the Red Dragon Emperor. I should have an awesome entrance to go gar against my enemy, you know. Brag. Have any idea how I make my entrance? Pick the door. That too cliché. It was overused. I and Drake exchanged idea about my supposedly bad entrance. However, we dragged it into useless banter somehow. And we wasted the time unproductively. Though Tarzan and enter through the window. With loincloth like an uncivilized barbarian. Of course, Tarzan was famous because his loincloth. You know, Drake. Instead of intimidating them, I will become laughingstocks and they won't take me seriously. Damn, just enter normally already. Are you nuts? They will mistake me as a lost child and won't take me seriously and look down on me. I hate being looked down. Though Juggernaut drive. Drake, we are just cleaning some annoying stench in the space, not going to fight a member of top 10. It was too overkill. TCH. Stop whining and go inside already. Then, it is the cliché entrance, huh? My right foot rose. And then, I kicked the double door. With a loud bang, the doors blasted open and destroyed into a small splinter by the small power I have exerted. At first, the church looked empty, but my exceptional hearing sense could hear it, the clamor in the hidden basement. The trapdoor suddenly opened. Dozens men and women clad in white robe came out with saber light sword, which remind me of lightsaber from our wars, and silver gun in hands. They put on different masks on their face, wariness, surprise and madness. Here. And here I thought we are under attack by shitty devils. Who thinks the attacker is actually a lost limb? Ha 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 ha, so, bastard, you have a gut barging in this place, huh? Are bored for living? Do you want to die? The spoken person was a young man with shoulder-length white hair and bloodshot, red eyes, slightly older than me. His expression filled with insanity and madness. He wore an exorcist white robe just like the dozens people here. Freed Zelzen, it was the name of that person. I was eerily calm. My face did not twitch by the appearance of dozens of armed stray exorcists. In my eyes, they do not have a value, they were no more than a bunch of riffraff, an ant that escaped my notice. My targets were the 3 fallen angels left in this area. Unfortunately, they were still in the basement. Mongrels. Why don't you all scram already and make everything easier for me? It's not like your number mattered that much in my eyes. I spoke out calmly, my hands folding in front of like an untouchable, mighty emperor in front of his rebellious people. Freed and the stray exorcists showed an angry mask after hearing my arrogant words. They gnashed their teeth in rage. Their pride must be wounded from my ridiculing words. What is this? What is this? A brat dares to say something absurd in front of this awesome me? Are you courting death? Ha. If you're really bored for living, I'll send you to hell. But the scream filled with rage, Freed brandished his silver gun and pointed it to my face. And then, he pulled the trigger. I let loose a sigh. The blessed silver bullet escaped the gun's muzzle. It flew towards me in slow motion, which made me die with boredom because waiting it to reach me. And I tilted my head slightly, letting the bullet pass just like that. What? What in the hell? Freed roared in disbelief. How were you dodging this awesome one's bullet, bastard? Tell me. Tell me. How did you do it? TCH. Annoying. Just be gone already, worm. I muttered coldly, my voice echoing in the silent church. At that moment, the world became slow. This was the phenomenon somebody with power usually experienced because how fast they could move. And then, I dashed towards Freed and kicked the side of his head, holding back my power so he would not die. I have decided to spare the insane exorcist so he could harm the Gremory group later. To everybody in the vicinity, it happened in flash. I just stood here at one moment, and the moment later I reappeared next to Freed with foot raised high in the air, and the mad stray exorcist body flung out sides of the church through the window, breaking it in the process. Freed screamed and wailed pitifully as his body soaring in the air until he disappeared from my sight. I put down my foot and returned my sight to the dozen stray exorcists around me, my eyes sweeping and watching their expression. Disbelief. Denial. Surprise. Shock. Fear. Their expression varied from one to another, giving me something to mock and enjoy. So? Will you scram from my sight or will you hand over your life to me? I asked calmly. Hi-ah. Kill him. Attack. Screams filled with rage, fear and desperation rang in the air. The dozen stray exorcists attacked me with abandon, showing their desperation to do the impossible, killing me. Humph. I snorted, the air harshly left my nose. I flicked my thumb and middle finger. At that moment, a red-colored magic circle with dragon skull symbol1 appeared on the floor. The glowing circle was wide, almost filled the church floor. An emerald-colored jewel appeared on the back of my left hand, and then boost and transfer it shone with bright light. What happened next was a horrifying sight to remember. Every one of them exploded, blood and body parts scattering in the formerly holy house. And just like that, the silence descended. What happened was they explode because their mortal body could not withstand the gift of Red Dragon Emperor. Why Drake Gosh was unexplainably powerful. So powerful until he would share his power unintentionally. It was the root of boosted Gira second base power, gift. Drake's penetration and absolute dragon fire were existed because this absurd power too. I have mastered all of this power, the power of why Drake Gosh. This was the reason why I could act so arrogant. And if I activated Juggernaut Drive, the power I could access was truly the power belonged to Drake in his prime. I cleaned by that stained by stray bloods. Surprisingly, I did not feel disgust or an urge to vomit. What I felt was excitement from so much blood, and I wanted to see more, the blood of my foe. At that moment, I, who was once a normal human, finally understood the true meaning of bloodlust. When I wanted to go into basement through the trapdoor, somebody had come out first. Who are you? The curt and wary question came from a fedora and a trench coat wearing man. He has a dandy appearance and handsome European facial structure. Brad Pitt, an artist from my previous world, would feel shame when he compared himself with this mere cannon fodder. Donaseek. The only male fallen angel in Rainer's ragtag group. Before I could answer his question, two silhouettes came out. First was tall woman with straight, shiny blue hair. She wore a tight blood-red colored business suit, pronouncing her G-cup S, willowy thin waist and wide, magnificent daughter short skirts. Let me see her pair of full and supple thigh. Her narrow golden eyes stared me with wariness. Surprisingly, this woman has an oriental appearance for a fallen angel. She was Calwerner, another member of Rainer's group of riffraff. The last silhouette belonged to a cute petite girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, accentuating her European facial structure. Her untamed hair was tied in two tails with black ribbon with white frills. She wore a Gothic Lolita dress, unlike Office's provocative Gothic Lolita dress. Her dress gave her an air of cute daughter of noble family. Her delicate yet sharp facial structure sent its sundier vibe to me. She was Miltet, the only lowly in Rainer's group of annoyances. Issei. Issei Haidu, I replied coolly. Donaseek's and Calwerner's eyes opened wide in surprise. Miltet was the only one who has a clueless expression. I found it was amusing. That's the name of our human target, aren't you supposedly killed by Rainer? Isn't she supposedly with you in a date? Donaseek sent a chain of questions to me. And then, a flash of anxiety and hostility entered his eyes. Where is she right now? Speak human, or I'll kill you. I looked down on Donaseek. His intimidation was like a shit. It was too cliché for my taste. Honestly, I have heard that threat over and over like a broken set in the anime I have watched in my previous life. Huh? So, he's the human targeted by Rainer. He's real looker, isn't he? What a shame. What a shame. Let me play with him before we kill him, okay? Miltet spoke with childish cheery voice. My eyebrows rose because this little fallen. Miltet, shut up. He's dangerous. Calwerner whispered harshly to the lowly. Her golden eyes swept over the place, watching the gore and blood everywhere. At that moment, I found out Miltet was quite an airhead, while Calwerner was cautious type. And then, I stared at Donaseek. That bitch, huh? Don't know. Maybe, she is broken in some corner in some place. I said with careless shrug. You? Donaseek bellowed. There was savage light and rage in his eyes. It directed to me. It was animosity born from knowing his comrade was harmed. I watched lazily as Donaseek created a light weapon in his hands. 2 javelins. 2 blood-red colored javelin in both hands. It was happened in a mere second, but to me it happened in slow motion. My eyes caught how specks of light appeared around his palm and then condensed into 2 light weapons. Again, I dashed towards my target in the slow world. This time, my left hand covered by blood-red scales and golden protrusions, boosted gear manifested fully. My human left hand became the paw of dragon filled with sharp claws. I clutched Donaseek's head just as his light spear fully created, and then boost, then transfer, and finally squelched. Donaseek's head exploded, his brain mush, splintered skull and blood splattering and scattering everywhere and staining Calwerner's, Miltet's, and my face. And then, Donaseek's headless body broke into light, joining the mana in the air, while his consciousness went to the void, like other dead supernatural beings. Aye. Miltet shrieked in fright, her bluer eyes shaking. In her eyes, it happened an instant. At a moment, I was on one spot, and then I appeared in front of headless Donaseek and disgusting brain and blood scattered everywhere, staining her cute face and beautiful dress. Why am impossible that gauntlet, the gauntlet of Red Dragon Emperor? How? Aren't you supposedly only normal human with normal sacred gear? There was no information about you as current Red Dragon Emperor and this strong. Calwerner's pupil contracted in fright and shock, her body twitching as her survival instinct kept telling her to flee for her life. I felt resigned when I saw that looks. Calwarner just lost her will to fight after she found out who I was and how powerful I am. It was not fun, well there was never been a fun fighting a weakling like them. Calwarner tried to run away, teleporting out from here. However, she was still slow, very slow like a snail. My left hand immediately struck her neck like a zapping snake and my claws at her. Just like that, the teleportation equation disrupted and Calwarner lost her chance to flee. I leaked out a bit of my restrained power and intent from my body. The overbearing pressure from my willpower slammed Calwarner's and melted its mind. I let them feel my firm willpower, the arrogant intent that knows no mercy against whoever dares standing in my path. Carnage. McCree. Bloodshed. Destruction. Despair. Death. Calwarner's and melted mind shaken by my domineering presence, their eyes tearing and urinating at the same time. Their bodies shook like a scarred small animal in front of the true predator. Please. Don't kill me. Hick, I don't want to die. Hick, sob, I'll do anything. Melted wailed in despair, knowing there was no chance for her if we fight. Though Calwarner could not speak because I had her, she was already despaired and submitted to me. They were too afraid of death. And because of that, I lost my mood to play with them. They were too pitiful to be my prey, and they were not my prey anymore. Now, what should I do with them? The middle of blood-stained church, which sent grim and ominous sight, 3 silhouettes could be seen. It was me, Calwarner and Melted. After dealing with dozens of exorcists and Donaseek, the 2 female fallen angels what were left. My right hand was in Calwarner's neck, keeping her from fleeing away via teleportation magic. Next to her, a sobbing Melted stared to me with fearful expression. I watched Calwarner gasping for breath. Her yellow eyes have yet to resign fully. When I saw it, I found this woman was quite interesting. She seemed not simple, and she has the look of a schemer. I connected everything in my mind immediately. Calwarner was likely biding her time while searching for a crack in my guard. When she found a chance to escape, she would do it in a heartbeat, leaving her lowly comrade behind. What a heartless, meticulous woman. I could not let her free just like that. But, what could I do to keep her in leash? Well, thankfully I have solution for a certain trouble like this. I have prepared many backup plans to ensure my main plan succeeds. What I shall do to Calwarner was one of those backup plans. I concentrated a bit of my power in my free left hand. Immediately, blood-red aura covered my left hand and a small magic circle appeared on my palm. And I moved my left palm to her my left dot. Calwarner's yellow eyes shook frantically. She was afraid I would do something that kills her. However, I wasn't planning for something like that. What I have in mind was putting a leash on her, keeping her from doing something against me on the future. I have found a use for these 2 stray crows. I would use them for my dragonification experiment. So far, I have only experimented on human and Ika, Murayama and Caddis were the finished product of that successful experiment. I have yet to try it toward supernatural being. And they would be the lab rat I needed. My glowing red, left hand slowly got closer onto Calwarner's dot, her struggle made her G-cup shook. In her eyes, my lady hand was like a death side that will rob her life and future away from her. Unfortunately, her struggle was for nothing. My strength was far overpowering her pitiful strength. I groped her left, my claws sunk on the soft fleshy orb. At that moment, her blood-red business suit was burnt. Her skin was also burning, scattering a stink smell of burned flesh in the empty church. Painful scream echoed in the vicinity. It was heart-wrenching and sending shivers on the listener's spine. Calwarner struggled to her hands clutching my left and right hand. She tried to pry off my hand and escape the soul-burning pain she was in. Because the pain was too much, she could not have enough spare moment to create a light weapon from retaliating. Her mind focused to the pain and despair. Next to her, Milted's knees have given up, she dropping on the floor with terror-filled face. Her fragrance has been ruined by stink smell of urine. She watched and fried as she watched and heard the sight of struggling Calwarner and her tortured screech. The process took long time, more than 30 minutes. In the meantime, Calwarner's voice slowly turned hoarse. When the process was going for 20 minutes, Calwarner fell unconscious because she could not bear the pain anymore. After the process finished, I dropped Calwarner. She immediately collapsed on the ground with soft thud like a soulless doll. There was a burnt mark on her left eye, and in the center of this mark was a black tribal dragon skull mark. This was the mark of my draconian servitude curse. Calling this curse as malicious and vicious wasn't far-fetched. This mark imprinted into the target's brain and soul, making it impossible for the target to betray me while retaining their cognitive ability and free will. If the target has ill will for me, the target's heart was slowly being squeezed until the target stopped thinking ill about me. If they didn't, well, they would die. Besides that, this mark was also functioned as tracker. I would know where the branded person was every time and everywhere in the corner of my mind. Then, I healed Calwarner. My healing skill was subpar and it was bad. I was aware of it. This was the reason why turning Asia Argento into my side was must. Her twilight healing would help me a lot. Milted let out a loud, terrified shriek as my gaze moved from Caloriner to her. Milted's body shook with terror. And her bluer eyes is filled with nothing but fear. I wouldn't be wrong if there was somebody said she has been scarred mentally. Dee, please. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Spare me. Spare me. I don't want to die. Again, a plea and wails came out of Milted's, which was like a broken recorder. Of course, I ignored her. Looking at me who was advancing to her, she tried to get away on all four, but it was only a futile, wasted effort. I moved within the slow world and appeared on top of Milted, her tiny body between my legs. Milted turned back her face with slow, mechanical movement. Her face showed despair, tears pouring without end. Please. I beg you. I don't want to die. I won't kill you. But, you must bear the pain from a moment. Milted was tongue-tied. She has seen the pain Caloriner has been in. And she knew it was very painful from her comrade's expression. If that happened to her, she would die. She couldn't bear the pain that much, unlike the seniors fallen angels in Rainer's ragtag group. At that moment, Milted regretted following Rainer's plan. She should have stayed in Grigori and continued her dull and harsh life as a cannon fodder instead. Rainer's plan was too good to be true, but she believed her status would rise and she could have good life if she followed Rainer's plan. She has never thought that they would poke a literally sleeping dragon, a heavenly dragon at that. In the end, Milted could only resign. What she could do. She was afraid to die, and the scary red dragon emperor on top of her would kill her easily if she doesn't accept. When I saw Milted's resigned nod, I crouched down. I was a bit surprised when I smelled Milted's smell. Unlike Rainer and Caloriner who have so much blood stench and men's smell, Milted was surprisingly fresh from any of that. There was a smell of blood, but only a little. How old are you? I asked Milted, my voice less cold than before. I will be 15 and next September, Milted answered with a shaky tone. I thought you're older than you look. I stated with an amused smirk. Looking my amused smirk, Milted's face showed a weird expression, a balanced mix between fear and irritation. Harud. I'm as young as my appearance, unlike Caloriner and Rainer. Milted mumbled lowly, slightly offended. Hearing that, I felt curious to Caloriner's and Rainer's actual age. They were like in mid-20s, but it couldn't be believed with a face value. How old are they? Amana Rainer is around 70s, if not early 80s, while Caloriner is more than 200 years old. But don't tell them I tell you this, please. They will become mad and beat me later. I put a thoughtful mask for a while. There were many things I wanted to hear from Milted, but I could not ask her now. At least, I should wait until we were in my house. I moved away from Milted's back and then crouched down in front of her. Milted stared at me nervously and waited for my word. How about this? I'll put you in coma-like state so you won't feel the excruciating pain when I brand you. Why are you suddenly offering me this? Milted asked me with a wary, guarded tone. Her eyes searched something in my eyes. I kept my cool mask. There was no way I would tell her I suddenly have a soft spot for her. Knowing her actual age has melted the ice in my heart slightly. It made me remember I wasn't a monster. Maybe I was meticulous and heartless when the time called for it, but I wasn't a mad beast hell-bent for destruction and spreading despair. I did not answer her and immediately put my right index finger on her forehead, between her eyebrows. The tip of my finger glowed red softly. And Milted was fallen asleep just like that. Now, let's start. I murmured softly. I flipped Milted's body carefully and laid her on her back. I unwound her gothic Lolita dress until her pink and black lace BR that hid her AA cup S was shown off. I carefully undid the BR until her left exposed. Then, I branded her with the same curse I branded on Caloriner, albeit more carefully, unlike with the elder female fallen angel. The process took more time than with Caloriner. 2 hours passed when the mark finished. I healed Milted's fully and then put on her dress again. After that, I transported Caloriner and Milted to my hidden basement. When my business here finished, the sun has sunk long ago and the dark sky filled with stars. Then, I went back to my house without alerting the Gremory group. Age break, 2 days have passed. The devils in the city were going nuts because my disappearance and the state of the abandoned church. I holed in my house with Milted as my only companion. Milted woke up first, 6 hours after I put her in the coma-like state. Because I was careful when I branded her, Milted recovered sooner than both Rainer and Caloriner. After I arrived back in my house, I immediately branded Rainer with the Draconian Servitude curse and put both Rainer and Caloriner in Spartan room within the basement. They wouldn't wake up soon, and by my estimation they would wake up next week. Meanwhile, I gave Milted one guest room as her personal room when she was awoken. Her disbelief when I did that was quite amusing. Yesterday, I have heard Milted's life. To call it a sob story wasn't far-fetched. She has never known her parents because she grew up alone in Grigori. She was nurtured until she was 10, and then her training began. It was actually surprising when I found out she was nothing but a trainee who has yet finished her training. I did not understand what Azazel thinking by sending this trainee with a Rainer, Kalwerner and Donasik. However, I have an insight that Azazel just pet his command to his underling, and the aforementioned underling commanded these four. I knew Azazel was laid back, lazy and pervert from the light novel. But this was too irresponsible of him. Currently, I and Milted have a breakfast in the obnoxiously grand dining room. Issei Sama munch munch gulp. I never thought you are very good with cooking. Munch munch gulp. This food is the best. Munch munch gulp. 100, no, 1000 times better than junk food and Grigori's ration I always ate. Milted spoke while munching her meal. Currently, she was wearing a black pajama with white stars image on it. I have ordered it and Milted's daily necessities via online shop. Her blonde, disheveled hair was untied, falling down below her shoulder. She was energetic after what happened 2 days ago. Well, I think I have a role on her acceptance with her new life. You see, I was curious with the experience of having a little sister. And I treated Milted like one because a whim of mine. When I think about it, it was scary how I decided others' fate because a mere whim. Well, I actually did not care. Dragons do what they want after all. Though I treated Milted like a little sister, when it was about serious business I would act coldly around her. I have prepared her training regimen yesterday and it was quite hellish. Milted paled when she read her training schedule. And she would start training after I dealt with the noisy red-haired devil in my school. Meh, this is nothing. I wasn't serious preparing this breakfast. Def you cough, you're not serious. But, this meal is delicious. Heck. It is better than some high CL restaurant's food. I smirked arrogantly at Milted's surprised face. Yesterday, I just ordered some junk food for us. Today, I was going all out Ruamiya in the kitchen. With reinforcement magic I recreated from the sewers I could prepare something good. I also have boosted gear to boost ingredients quality into incomprehensible level, making the meal I prepared to be otherworldly. Though, Drake always became grumpy whenever he found out his ability used for boosting cooking ingredients. I stood up after I finished my plate, taking Milted's attention. I was already clad in Kuo Academy uniform for male students and red t-shirt. I took my bag and search chair and was ready to go. There was something in the fridge if you want a snack. Don't forget to clean the dishes later. Yes, Issei-sama. You don't need to worry. And, have a safe trip. Whatever disturbs my trip will be burned into ash. Milted gave an awkward grin for my comeback remark. After that, I went to the front door and opened it. I stared at the clear sky for a moment, savoring the last bit piece, before I would listen to Devil's mad ramble in the school. Are you ready for officially entering the supernatural world, partner? I'm born ready, partner. Let's remind them the fearsome power of Red Dragon Emperor once again. Let's shake the world. What the hell? What an IM you have plagiarized, you old lizard. Shut the fuck up, brat. That line was original. Original. I shan't step so low plagiarizing some line from human useless entertainment. No way. You're not the creative type. I'm Jack and Trade Dragon. I can do anything. Bullshit. Then, I left my home while arguing with Drake along the way. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Mr. Literature Connoisseur for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.